Hi, everybody. I am Kevin Ioli. Welcome to my latest interview. And, normally I don't wear hats when I do these interviews, but I thought, I had to do something going up against this guy, the guy with the best mane in MMA, my friend Elias Theodorou. How are you, Elias?
Fantastic, and I dig the hat.
Absolutely. Golden Knights. So I know you're a
Yep,
hockey fan. So
for
we,
sure, for
we,
sure.
we need a couple more wins to clinch the division. That was a tough loss to the San Jose Sharks last night, but we're playing pretty well.
Yep, 100%.
So, when you won the Ultimate Fighter and got into the UFC, I was thinking, hey, maybe your goal was to be the next Anderson Silva. But now, I don't know, from what I hear you're doing this weekend, is the goal to become the next Brittany Palmer or the next Ariane? What's going on? Phil, for the people who don't know, you got a spot at the Invicta fight card tomorrow in Salt Lake City. What's going on?
Really excited. First, it started off with the opportunity to kind of, hit with the races in regards to my YouTube channel, the main event. And I did a smaller promotion in regards to my first Ring Boy appearance. And I did it with, I filmed the whole thing and the experience, and we put together a video, and it went really well. And I showed it to Shannon, and she loved the idea. And during the whole time,
And that's Shannon Knapp, the president of Invicta.
Shannon Knapp, the president of Invicta. She's been fully supportive of my Rim Boy endeavors, and is fully in supportive in regards to me being here. Really excited because I think that there's a huge opportunity beyond obviously the fun I'm excited to have today and tomorrow, game day. But the opportunity to kind of show that in the true pursuit of equality, the answer is more, not less. So
Right.
I think there are many different opportunities in this. My endeavors as a Ring Boy holder, card holder.
One of the things that I really like about you, I think you get it, marketing is a big part of a fighter's job. And this, of course, is all marketing yourself out there to a wider audience. Do you see as you do these things beyond strict fight interviews and what do you think of your opponent and who do you want to fight next? Do you see your fan base expanding and do you see your social footprint expanding? Do you have any numbers to back it up?
Yeah, no, 110%. I've seen just the proofs in the pudding in regards to the metrics on social media, the different conversation I've been able to have, like with yourself and others beyond just fighting. There are 500 fighters on the UFC roster, but there's only one Ring Boy, and there's only one UFC fighter with a contract with a shampoo deal, you know what I mean, per plus. There's only one UFC fighter in that category as well, and there's a lot of other things I'm planning to do in the next little bit that I will be first, and in marketing, first is king. But obviously, now being a Ring Boy, adding one of the many feathers to my imaginary hat, because contractually I'm not allowed wearing hats thanks to Pert Plus.
There you go. Well, and I also think the marketing works back in because, Dana White has said this many times, let's use Conor McGregor as an example. He forced himself in front of the public. He talked and he forced and he marketed himself well, and it turned out Conor could fight. And Conor was a great fighter, but he was a great marketer. And so by you doing these other things, getting in commercials, getting in movies, TV shows, being a ring boy, that type of thing, I would think that would also make it easier for you in the UFC to get other fights because they know you're going to bring eyeballs to the show.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I've been, I've been very, successful in regards to just creating. Oop, dropped my hand there. I've been very successful in creating, just other forms and spheres of attention in regards to, live tweeting every UFC event. I have about 30-ish thousand followers, but I have, in regards to metrics wise, about 7 million impressions a month I make. So, 7 million eyeballs in regards to what I'm doing is a great turnover, and it allows me to stay relevant beyond the 2-3 times I fight in a year, and all the other endeavors that I plan on doing, including my film, The Last Hit, which is a working title right now, but I essentially play an MMA fighter, huge stretch, who gets injured, and I reinvent myself with competitive video gaming. So I plan on getting it. I plan on getting in the esports game as well, and there's great opportunity in regards to brands that I'm working with. The Last Hit is a working title where I basically, if all goes well, will be working with a very famous, very well-known video game I can't really talk about it. It's Street Fighter. But basically, it's a comedy, and we already have myself attached as both a lead and also as one of the producers. And I also have Gary Haas, who's a well-known and a established director. He's been the assistant director for movies like Juno, Interstellar, all the new Planet of the Apes movies, all the new X-Men movies, and many more. He's essentially been attached to about like $5 billion worth of movies. And he's already attached to it, loves the script. I've been working really closely with the writer, Kyle Francis, who put together a script that I love. And it's kind of formed around myself. And again, it's a comedy. So even though I play an MMA fighter who gets injured and will be spending most of my actual time in a wheelchair, it really has a larger conversation of what does someone do after athletics, especially when their identity is completely attached to it. And it's something like myself and many other athletes are going to have to deal with. But I'm making a movie about it, and there's many different opportunities to attach brands along the way.
And I guess that's something that, you have to confront in the not too distant future because, you have 17 fights in UFC and, you guys have limited shelf lives. I mean, you're not going to be fighting forever. Even Randy Couture, who seemed like he would never quit, only went to 47. So, you have to do something like that. Is acting really what you think would be next for you beyond, when the MMA career is finally done? Would acting be what you want to do?
Well, it's definitely something I'm looking to jump full into. I have an acting coach that I'm going to start working with in the next little bit, and we actually have a Indiegogo that we're going to be doing, and then in March, April 4th actually is the kickoff, and that's not really for funding. It's more or less to get attention and also to pay for my acting coach, essentially. So the whole shtick on the Indiegogo is that I'm essentially quote unquote a black belt in fighting, but I'm a white belt in acting. So I need to, just like I did in fighting, hire the best coaches. I need to hire a coach, an acting coach, and it's going to be a fun, tongue-in-cheek kind of way of me, showing that I'm always looking to grow, and that includes in anything that I'm doing, as in my film, The Last Hit. So I'm always excited to get out of my comfort zone and learn different things. More specifically, being now a lead in a movie and also producer, I know how the underbelly of a film works, right. And I know how the opportunities and the quote unquote producer is just someone that knows different brands and different opportunities, and I'm someone that meets someone all the time. I've at a little soiree that I was at not too long ago, I met a venture capitalist whose passion is who's investing into independent films. Well, who has an independent film coming out? So there's opportunity like that. Exactly. Mixed martial arts. I want to be the best in the world. I want to be the best that I can be, and I want to rise as high as I can. In that limited space, but. Athletics, like we just mentioned, is a finite resource, and I'm trying to squeeze the lemon for all it's worth, and for as long as possible. And if it's me jumping in movies for the next X amount of years afterwards, or modeling, or producing, etc., etc., many options.
I was in a couple of movies. One, I was in Creed, and I didn't show up in the movie at all, but I spent a lot of time. And then, not Creed, Rocky Balboa. I'm sorry about that. And then I was also in Real Steel, and in Real Steel, I was in the movie like about that much. They panned past me, and you saw me there, but you had to know I was there, and you had to know exactly when it was. But the thing that I saw, how much work it was, and how you also had to occupy yourself because there's a lot of standing around doing nothing, waiting till the next shot went out there. What was it that you found about the movie process that was maybe surprised you the most that you didn't expect?
Well, definitely the hurry up and wait. But I truly think there's an opportunity to get my 2 training sessions in a day. Like when I film this movie that I'm going to be working on, I'm going to have 2 different coaches coming with me every single day and fit an hour a session in between. I won't be in camp, obviously, right? Because I'll be in between, basically in between this fight and possibly the next one or after the next one, whatever it ends up being. Again, being the producer and being the lead, I get to kind of schedule it around my schedule.
Right.
So that's a benefit too. And just the underbelly of understanding what a producer is, understanding how, again, I mentioned it's a independent film. So part of the Indiegogo, again, is not really to make all the funding, but more or less, when you start a independent film or a company you start an independent film or a film in generally, it's essentially a company, but there's a time limit on it, and the Indiegogo will essentially start the countdown for our first form of income that we receive, and we have a year process to complete the film. So it's interesting just understanding the underbelly, understanding all the tax credits, understanding all the opportunities of different things. Like in Canada, we have something called telefilms, and there's an opportunity to get $250,000 through Canadian tax credits, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's really amazing opportunity that there is to be had in film and whatnot. And it's just understanding how it works.
Let's talk about your quote-unquote real job right now, which is fighting. Yeah. You are 15-2, been one of the more successful fighters to come out of the Ultimate Fighter. But you're in a situation where you're still not ranked. You have a fight coming up, I believe it hasn't been announced yet, but May 30th in Liverpool. Maybe we can announce here. You're going to fight Trevor Smith. Is that correct?
This is correct. It was actually announced just a couple of days ago.
I missed that.
No, yeah. So it was announced a couple of days ago, and just kind of queuing in regards to where this all comes full circle. My endeavors as a ring boy has actually gone viral in the UK and Ireland because they recently removed ring card holders from darts and Formula One. So I was actually, along with Darren Till, my fight was actually first announced because there's already all this hype about me being a ring boy. So again, I got to choose my fight because of my ring boy endeavors, and it all comes full circle. It's all, any press is good press, and I'm kind of controlling my own narrative and my destiny of where I fight.
I love it. I won't ask you if you've talked to Brittany or Ariane for any tips or anything, but going back to the fighting thing, you said you want to be the best that you can be. Have you reconciled with the fact that, hey, if you're not ranked, you may never fight for the title? I mean, are you okay with that, or do you still feel like you can get yourself into the rankings and then get high enough up into the rankings to get a title shot?
I think all of the above. One of the most important things to realize is I'm 29 in an average median weight, in a weight class that's the average medium is about 36 and older. So, I got plenty of time and plenty of catching up to do because I only started martial arts in any capacity about at the age of 21. So I'm competing against people like, Weidman, who's been wrestling his whole life, or, Jacare, who's been doing jiu-jitsu for his whole life. Like, there are lifetime athletes that I'm competing against, and I had the gumption to jump into mixed martial arts less than a decade ago and compete at the highest level. So, in many ways, I'm fighting at a pace that I get to learn and grow, and I think although Trevor Smith isn't a top contender, he isn't someone that's ranked, but I think it's someone that I definitely have the opportunity to get a finish and then take that momentum for the rest of the year. So I'm looking at a real win for me is a finish with this fight, and that's what I want to do.
I want to ask you, I was at your fight when you fought Thiago Santos, and you had that gnarly cut. Number one, has it been a problem at all reopening or anything for you since then?
No, and actually, funny fact, again, we mentioned hockey. I used to play hockey when I was younger.
You're Canadian.
I got about exactly. It's kind of like our form of military, right? Like you have to do your hockey service. Exactly. So some jerk when I was young, like I was only like 13 years old. When I slipped on the floor, he kicked me in the face with his hockey blade. It split me open on the left side. So I have about 40 stitches on this side and 40 stitches on that side. Because of the Thiago Alves fight. So, like a true OG hockey player or goalie, I have about 90 stitches in my face. But luckily with the Thiago Santos fight, one, it hasn't reopened. And two, it kind of just symmetrically made me more symmetric because of the equal-sided scar.
There you go. What I wanted to ask you about that fight was your first loss as a professional. that's got to be traumatic for people, especially after somebody like you had won. I think you were 11-0 when you lost, but then you also had the Ultimate Fighter fights that didn't count on your official record. So you had won quite a few fights in a row. When you come up and lose that, how is it getting over your first loss? Like, is it a big mental hurdle, and how long did it take you before you kind of really had your confidence back? Like, hey, I'm Elias, and I can do this still.
Yeah, no. Well, first and foremost, the biggest hit is financial, because again, in my sport, it is, you get paid to fight and you get paid to win. And going home for the first time with half my paycheck really was, the salt in the wounds. It didn't get knocked out, and now with all of the great performances that Thiago Santos has put under his belt, it shows that I can compete against the toughest, and I may not win, but I deserve to be there. And it was also the starting of why I've been so active in all the other pursuits, because again, I go home with half if I lose, and everyone loses every once in a while. Right. So I've set myself up to essentially match, if not greater than all of what I make in fighting in all my other pursuits. So fighting is just the icing on the cake when I win my whole paycheck.
Exactly.
Moreover, it was partly, after the part of it, again, my least, I think, my least, how would I phrase this? I think the fight that, garnered me the least amount of fans would have been my Sam Alvey fight. Part of that was, coming back from my first loss and the concern about, financially, et cetera, et cetera. Once I was able to get that under my belt, I think I was able to put on much better performances, like with Cesar Ferreira, and even in a losing front, which I think I won against Brad Tavares. It was an exciting fight, I believe. And, coming back from it, obviously someone like Dan Kelly, I didn't get the finish, but I was able to,
you beat the dad.
Beat the dad bod. What's it called? And more importantly, actually, I broke a record. I'm officially the record holder of the most kicks ever in a UFC fight.
Oh, there you go.
I beat Joanna Jacek's 75 kicks or 79 kicks in a 5-round fight versus my 3-round fight with 109.
I would have thought Barboza would have had to have that record, but
I know. Him is just one kick and death kind of thing, right?
If he kicked anybody 109 times, they would be broken in half.
Exactly. So but going back, one of the things, again, whether you win or lose, you have to go back to the drawing board. And what I really think about I've had some criticisms in the last little bit in regards to calling me a point fighter. And, a lot of that has been digested by myself and understood. And I think part of it is because in training, there is a big rule of thumb and an old adage, you fight the way you train. And in many ways, because of my awkward style, I'm able to just completely tally up rounds on my training partners, and I don't want to hurt them.
They're not hitting you, but you're hitting them. So
I'm totally hitting them, and there's been times where I've accidentally knocked people out because a kick goes in the right place and they walk into it, et cetera, and it's not intentional. It's just I'm very unorthodox, and if I don't know what I'm going to do, how are you going to know? Right. But the thing is, I've been quote unquote nice in training, and I think that's reflected in my fighting. I in some ways. In the Brad Tavares fight, I think the only reason why it was a close fight is because in many ways I was kind of waiting for what he was going to do next rather than letting me do me and complete me. Exactly. So and that's what I've been I've been a little meaner in training, and I'm looking forward to being meaner in my next fight. Truth be told, I'm a lover by trade, but everyone's got a price, and I love competition. So for the right price, and I'm very happy where I am in the UFC. I'm looking to make a statement against Trevor Smith.
Let's end with this one, because I know you're a good analyst of fights. What do you think Floyd Mayweather would face if he fought MMA? Do you think it's a joke, number one, that he is considering it? And do you think he could be a good MMA fighter? How long would it take him?
Well, he's a super athlete, right? He is the creme de la creme, if not one of the best boxers, at least one of the best defensive boxers of all time. And, his ability to promote is exactly what this would be. If he never fights again, and this is just him promoting and just kind of keeping himself relevant, that's huge. still huge in its own right. Moreover, I think, we all said that it might not happen with him versus Conor, but it did happen. And again, going back to the old adage, everyone has a price. I think there is a price that if met, Floyd would be interested. And it would be a mixed martial arts fight. So he's still undefeated in boxing. And, if he walks away with $500 million or whatever he's kind of mentioned, I think everyone would do the same thing.
Well, could he get out of an MMA fight without a dent in the side of his head?
It depends on who he's fighting, right? I wouldn't put anything past him because his reflexes still at 40 are just unreal. And, he may not be, the Floyd of 3 years ago, 5 years ago in that capacity, but there are people that he could potentially put him up against. And one of the things that have been floating by his father, Floyd Sr., is the idea of CM Punk. And if CM Punk wins this fight, there might be an opportunity there, even a catch weight. Like, who knows, right? Like 165. CM Punk isn't a kicker by any means, and we've seen what his loaded punching ability would do. And at 4-ounce gloves, it could prove a really good advantage or disadvantage because of Floyd's previous hand issues, breaking his hands constantly, right?
That would be rough on him.
Yeah, so there's a lot in play, but again, I think if he's, he went from his previous fight name to Money Mayweather for a reason, and I think with him, it's all about the money.
He went from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money May. So, he knew what he was doing. Well, Elias, I really appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow night. And it's not your debut, but a lot of people are going to get to see you this time because it's streamed on UFC Fight Pass. Any idea what you're going to wear? Can you give us a hint what we might see you in on the walking around?
Yeah, I'm going to be wearing basically for today's weigh-ins, I'll be wearing fitted sweatpants that have, Invicta and then some of my sponsors on it as well. Because one of the opportunities is here, I'm bypassing a lot of the restraints that Reebok has. I now have I have my banner back. I have my sponsored shorts, and I'm now the only UFC fighter not only to be a ring boy, but also has all of his sponsors available and on TV as well. So really excited. And then the top part, I have basically a fitted, a fitted sweatshirt as well. They'll be open zipped at the front, showing a little bit of skin, but in a classy, tasteful way.
There we go. Always classy and always tasteful. Elias Theodorou. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you.